Imagine a cold, gray dawn over the Arctic Circle. From a snow-covered runway deep within the Soviet Union, a massive shape begins to move, sleek, powerful, and menacing. Its engines roar to life, echoing across the tundra like the growl of a sleeping giant awakening from decades of tension. This is the Tupolev Tu-22M Backfire, one of the most enigmatic and feared bombers ever built. To the west, it represented the embodiment of Soviet ambition, a weapon of speed, power, and reach, designed to challenge NATO dominance in the skies and the seas. But to those who built it, the Tu-22M was more than just a bomber. It was a statement of technological pride, a declaration that the Soviet Union would never again be outpaced by its Western rivals. Born in the heart of the Cold War, its story is not only about engineering and military might, but also about politics, espionage, and the race to command the future of strategic aviation. The Backfire's creation began as a response to a simple yet dangerous realization: the Soviet Union's older bombers, like the Tu-16 Badger and the Tu-22 Blinder, could no longer compete with Western air defenses or the ever-evolving threat of U.S. carrier strike groups. The Soviet leadership needed a bomber capable of striking deep into enemy territory, one that could take off from within Soviet borders, reach the North Atlantic or the Indian Ocean, and return home safely. That dream required something radical, something faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything before it. From that demand came one of the most distinctive bombers ever conceived, a machine that balanced raw power with aerodynamic elegance. The Tu-22M, known in NATO circles as Backfire, featured a design unlike anything the world had seen from the Soviet Union before. Its most iconic feature was its variable sweep wing, a technological marvel allowing the aircraft to adapt its shape mid-flight. When extended, the wings provided lift and stability for takeoff or long-range cruising. When swept back, they turned the bomber into a dart capable of supersonic speeds at low altitude, evading radar and interceptors. Beneath the sleek exterior lay two massive Nk-25 afterburning turbofan engines, each capable of producing nearly 55,000 pounds of thrust. These engines gave the Tu-22M the power to reach speeds exceeding Mach 1.8, while maintaining the endurance to fly thousands of kilometers. Its bomb bay could carry a staggering payload, from freefall bombs to the infamous Kh-22 Kitchen anti-ship missile, a weapon specifically designed to sink American aircraft carriers. The Backfire's avionics were another leap forward for Soviet engineering. Equipped with advanced navigation systems, terrain-following radar, and electronic countermeasures, it could fly dangerously low under enemy radar, hugging the Earth at high speed before unleashing its payload and escaping into the clouds. Yet behind these technical achievements was a shroud of secrecy. Western analysts struggled for decades to fully understand the bomber's true capabilities. Was it a long-range strategic bomber capable of nuclear strikes on the U.S. mainland, or merely a regional maritime threat designed to target NATO fleets? Even within the Soviet military, its purpose was the subject of debate, a reflection of the political uncertainty that often surrounded Soviet defense projects. Testing the Tu-22M was no simple feat. The first prototypes, flown in the early 1970s, revealed both brilliance and flaws. Test pilots described it as thrilling yet unforgiving, a machine that demanded precision and respect. Early versions suffered from unstable handling and complex flight controls, especially during low-altitude supersonic runs. Yet with each flight, improvements came. The Tu-22M2 introduced more powerful engines and refined aerodynamics, while the later Tu-22M3 became the definitive model, faster, tougher, and far more capable. It was this version that became the backbone of Soviet long-range aviation throughout the 1980s. Deployed to bases in the Arctic, the Baltic, and the Far East, Tu-22MS conducted endless training runs, practicing attack profiles against simulated NATO fleets. Their signature maneuver was terrifying, flying low over the ocean, below radar detection, before suddenly ascending to launch their Kh-22 missiles from beyond visual range. Western intelligence watched anxiously, often mistaking such exercises for potential first strike preparations. The Backfire's reputation grew not only through its capabilities but through the fear it inspired. During the Cold War's tensest years, U.S. carriers in the North Atlantic and Pacific were forced to reconsider their strategies, always assuming a Backfire squadron could appear over the horizon at any moment. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the Backfire didn't fade into history. Instead, it became a survivor of chaos. In the 1990s, as the Russian Federation struggled with economic collapse, many Tu-22Ms were grounded, their missions halted. But a select few remained active, and in the 21st century, the bomber would find new life in modern warfare, flying combat missions over Syria, proving that its legacy was far from over. For the Western world, the appearance of the Tu-22M was a strategic nightmare. The United States Navy, in particular, regarded it as one of the greatest threats ever posed to its carrier strike groups. With its high speed and long-range missiles, a single squadron of Backfires could potentially overwhelm an entire carrier battle group's defenses. This fear reshaped NATO naval tactics and even influenced U.S. defense spending. The Aegis combat system, advanced carrier-borne interceptors, and long-range early warning networks were all partially developed as direct responses to the Backfire threat. In political circles, debates raged in Washington and London about whether the Tu-22M violated arms limitation treaties. The Soviets claimed it was a medium-range bomber, not a strategic one, arguing that it lacked the range to strike the continental United States. But Western intelligence suspected otherwise, that with aerial refueling, the Backfire could indeed deliver nuclear payloads to American soil. This ambiguity was deliberate. By blurring the line between tactical and strategic capability, the Soviets kept their adversaries guessing. The Backfire thus became more than an aircraft, it became a psychological weapon, a symbol of uncertainty in a world balanced on the edge of annihilation. Even today, historians note that the Tu-22M's very existence forced NATO to rethink its doctrine of power projection. It demonstrated how one aircraft, built from ambition and fear, could alter the global balance of power without ever firing a shot. In the global race for air superiority, the Tu-22M occupied a unique niche. It wasn't quite like America's B-1 Lancer, which emphasized stealth and low-altitude penetration, nor was it as massive or long-ranged as the B-52 Stratofortress. Instead, the Backfire struck a balance between speed, firepower, and versatility. Its design philosophy was quintessentially Soviet, prioritizing ruggedness and raw performance over comfort and subtlety. When compared to Western bombers, it had both strengths and weaknesses. It could outrun a B-52 with ease, but lacked the stealth and sophisticated avionics of later Western aircraft. Yet in real-world missions, it proved incredibly resilient. Unlike many of its Western counterparts, the Tu-22M could operate from rough airfields, withstand extreme weather, and deliver devastating payloads with minimal support infrastructure. Over time, it evolved further. The Tu-22M-3M modernization program introduced new digital avionics, precision-guided weapons, and even the potential for hypersonic missile integration. This evolution kept the Backfire relevant well into the 21st century, bridging the gap between Cold War legacy and modern warfare. In an era when drones and stealth dominate the skies, the Tu-22M remains an anachronistic reminder that sometimes, brute force and speed can still hold their own against invisibility and algorithms. Behind the Tu-22M's steel and fire were the people who made it, the engineers at Tupolev Design Bureau who spent sleepless nights refining each wing joint, each circuit, each line of code. There were test pilots who risked their lives pushing the Backfire to its limits, flying at near treetop levels at Mach 1.5, with the Earth flashing beneath them like a blur. Many of them never returned, victims of engine failures, design flaws, or simple human error. Their sacrifices built not only a weapon but a legacy. Politically, the Tu-22M was also a child of power struggles. Within the Kremlin, debates over its funding reflected the shifting tides of Soviet priorities. Some saw it as essential for maritime defense, others argued it was a provocation that risked destabilizing already fragile relations with the West. Yet, as history shows, the aircraft survived every challenge, not merely because of its performance, but because it symbolized something deeper, the Soviet Union's determination to project power beyond its borders. When the USSR fell, the Backfire's pilots became symbols of endurance. Some flew for newly independent nations like Ukraine before their bombers were scrapped under disarmament agreements. Others remained loyal to Russia, maintaining aging aircraft with minimal resources, preserving a dying breed of aviation heritage through sheer willpower. Today, the Tupolev Tu-22M continues to fly, a ghost of the Cold War that refuses to fade. Modernized variants participate in Russian air campaigns, striking targets across vast distances, reminding the world that this Cold War relic still has teeth. To some, the Backfire represents a bygone era of brute force engineering. To others, it's a symbol of timeless design and adaptability. Its legacy lives not only in museums or documentaries but in the very doctrines that shape global military thought. It teaches us that power isn't just about technology, it's about adaptability, psychology, and the ability to endure. As the world moves toward stealth bombers, AI-driven drones, and hypersonic weapons, the Backfire stands as a monument to a different philosophy, one that believes in dominance through presence, not invisibility. It reminds us of an age when human courage and mechanical might define the boundaries of war. Perhaps that's why, even today, the sight of a Tu-22M taking off from a distant runway still sends chills through military analysts and aviation enthusiasts alike. Because in that thunderous roar, in that flash of afterburners against the frozen horizon, echoes a question as old as the Cold War itself: will machines like this ever truly die? Or will the spirit of the Backfire, the will to dominate the skies, live on forever?